Drive across North Dakota in late summer and you can see them by the mile. Fields of sunflowers, their heavy heads turned over dark seeds that will become cooking oil, snacks, bird seed, and livestock feed. They look completely at home. And they are. Sunflower is one of the few major crops domesticated in North America. Archaeological and genetic evidence traces the modern domesticated sunflower back to indigenous farmers here thousands of years ago. But the sunflower industry? Americans know today was not built here first. The crop left North America, crossed the Atlantic, spread across Europe, and became an oilseed powerhouse in Russia. Russian breeders pushed its oil content higher, developed varieties for commercial production, and helped turn an American plant into a global commodity. Then, something remarkable happened. North America began importing those improved sunflowers back. By the late 19th century, mammoth Russian seed was appearing in American catalogs. Decades later, high-oil Soviet varieties helped ignite sustained commercial oilseed production in the United States. So, the title is deliberately provocative, but the journey is real. America gave the world the sunflower, Russia remade it for oil, and America eventually brought back a transformed version of a crop that had started here. But that is only half the story. Because when modern breeders needed new disease resistance and genetic diversity, they had to look once again at the wild sunflowers still growing in the sunflower's original home. The seed went around the world. Then the world came back for the genes. Long before sunflower oil came in clear plastic bottles, long before vast fields covered the northern plains, sunflower was part of a very different agricultural world. Wild common sunflower, Helianthus annuus, is native to North America. Its wild form does not look exactly like the giant garden sunflower most people picture. Wild plants tend to branch more heavily and carry many smaller flower heads. Their seeds are smaller too. The cultivated form is a human creation. Over generations, indigenous farmers saved seed from plants with traits they valued: larger seeds, larger heads, and forms better suited to harvest. That process changed the plant. The evidence goes deep into the past. Archaeologists have recovered domesticated sunflower remains from sites in eastern North America dating to well before 3,000 years ago. Research led by Smithsonian archaeobotanist Bruce Smith concluded that all modern domesticated sunflowers trace back to a center of domestication in the interior mid-latitudes of eastern North America. That matters because the old stereotype of North American agriculture begins too late. People often picture indigenous farming beginning with corn, beans, and squash. Those crops became enormously important, but eastern North America also developed its own agricultural complex. Sunflower grew beside plants such as squash, goosefoot, marsh elder, maygrass, and little barley. This was not a landscape where people merely stumbled across useful seeds. People selected them, planted them, stored them, improved them. At Knife River in what is now North Dakota, the National Park Service describes sunflower as a fourth major garden crop alongside corn, beans, and squash. The seeds could be pressed for oil or made into compact seed foods. Other historical accounts describe sunflower seed being roasted, ground into meal, and used in soups and other foods. So when Europeans first encountered sunflower, they were not discovering an untouched wildflower. They were encountering a crop already shaped by human hands. That distinction is easy to lose because the people who created the crop did not leave behind modern seed company logos or international commodity exchanges. They left something more durable. They left the plant itself. There is another clue in the shape of the crop itself. A wild sunflower often branches and produces multiple modest heads. A cultivated oilseed sunflower is typically managed for a large, harvestable head and a concentrated seed crop. That visual difference is a record of selection. Every generation, somebody chose what to save and what not to save. Domestication was not one breakthrough. It was thousands of small decisions repeated across seasons. And then that plant crossed the Atlantic. Spanish explorers carried sunflower seed to Europe in the 16th century. By 1580, according to North Dakota State University's historical account, sunflower was already a common garden flower in Spain. From there, it moved across Europe, along trade routes, into new gardens and new climates. At first, Europeans often treated sunflower as an exotic ornamental. That is one of the strangest turns in the story. A plant that had been food in North America could become decoration after crossing an ocean. But plants do not carry instructions explaining what previous societies knew about them. Knowledge can travel with a crop, or it can be left behind. Eventually, sunflower reached Russia, where the plant entered a culture with a strong demand for vegetable oil and an agricultural system capable of expanding it as a field crop. The simple version of this history says Russia discovered sunflower oil. That is too simple. Native Americans were already extracting and using sunflower oil. Europeans had also experimented with sunflower oil before Russia became the crop's great commercial center. Russia's achievement was different. It scaled the idea. Farmers selected plants that performed better for seed and oil. Agricultural institutions built organized breeding programs. Industry created demand for crushing seed in large quantities. The sunflower stopped being merely a useful plant. It became an oil crop. And this is where the title begins to make sense. America did not sign a document handing sunflower to Russia. No government packed the crop into a crate marked gift. Gave away describes a historical reversal. A crop domesticated in North America moved abroad, and another agricultural system invested more heavily in turning it into a modern commercial oilseed. The biology was American. The industrial transformation increasingly became Russian. And once that happened, North America would have a reason to want the transformed crop back. If there is one person who helps explain what Russia changed, it is Vasily Stepanovich Pustovoit. Russian sunflower breeding did not begin with him, but his work became foundational. At the research institution in Krasnodar that would later bear his name, Pustovoit and other breeders treated sunflower oil content as something that could be deliberately pushed upward generation after generation. That sounds obvious now. It was not obvious in a crop whose wild ancestors generally carried far less oil than modern commercial types. The difference breeders created was enormous. Modern reviews of sunflower breeding describe Russian programs raising seed oil content from roughly 25 to 30% into the range of 45 to 50%. Pustovoit developed open-pollinated varieties became part of the genetic foundation of modern sunflower breeding. In other words, Russia did not simply grow more of America's sunflower. It changed what farmers could expect from every acre. This is the central thesis of the episode. North America domesticated the sunflower. Russia industrialized its oilseed potential. And the modern American sunflower industry was built from both histories. That is a much more interesting story than saying one country invented the crop. It is also visible in the seed. By the late 19th century, improved Russian types were traveling back across the Atlantic. Mennonite families leaving the Russian Empire for the Canadian prairies carried sunflower seed with them. They had grown sunflower in their gardens and used the kernels as food. Among the varieties associated with this return was Mammoth Russian, famous for large plants and large seeds. By 1880, American seed catalogs were advertising Mammoth Russian sunflower. Think about that for a moment. American buyers could now open a seed catalog and purchase a Russian version of a plant whose wild ancestor was still growing across their own continent. The sunflower had returned wearing a foreign name. At first, that did not immediately create a giant American oil industry. In the United States, sunflower was used for things such as poultry feed and silage, while commercial oil production remained limited. The United States did make earlier attempts. In 1926, the Missouri Sunflower Growers Association participated in what the National Sunflower Association describes as likely the country's first processing of sunflower seed into oil. But those efforts did not yet create the durable oilseed industry that followed later. The crop was present. The industrial system around it was still catching up. The real industrial breakthrough would require another trip through northern agriculture. Canada began an official sunflower breeding program in 1930, using material that included seed from Mennonite gardens. By 1946, Canadian farmers had a small sunflower crushing plant. Then came an even more important Russian cultivar, peredovic. Developed in the Soviet Union, peredovic combined high yield with high oil content. Canada licensed it in 1964. Its success helped increase commercial interest south of the border. And in 1966, the United States reached a milestone that sounds almost absurdly late for a native crop. That year marks the first sustained commercial production of oilseed sunflower in the United States. About 6,000 acres were grown. Then the acreage expanded. By 1979, combined U.S. oilseed and non-oilseed sunflower acreage reached roughly 5.5 million acres. The native crop had become an American commodity on a massive scale, but only after it had gone abroad and come home changed. Now we need the counterpoint, because the title can mislead if we take it too literally. America never truly lost sunflower. Wild Helianthus species remained across North America. Native communities continued sunflower traditions. Gardeners grew sunflower. American farmers experimented with it. And Russian improved seed was already back on this continent long before the oil boom of the 1960s and 1970s. So, no, the United States did not wake up one morning and discover that Russia owned its missing crop. This was not theft, it was crop exchange. Genes moved with migrants, traders, seed companies, farmers, governments, and research stations. Different societies changed the plant for different purposes, but that counterpoint actually makes the story stronger. Because buying it back is not about legal ownership, it is about value. North America possessed the species and the original domestication history. Russia built some of the high oil genetics and breeding systems that made the crop commercially attractive at industrial scale. When North American agriculture wanted those traits, it imported them. USDA has summarized this historical irony directly. Russian researchers used sunflower germplasm from the United States to breed varieties that helped start the sunflower oil industry. The genetic material went east. Breeding added value. Improved material traveled west. That is globalization before anyone used the word at the grocery store. And it raises a question that goes far beyond sunflower. When a crop moves around the world, who gets credit for creating it? The people who first domesticated it? The farmers who kept selecting it? The breeders who dramatically changed its chemistry? The migrants who carried it across borders? Or the industry that finally made it profitable? Sunflower refuses to give us one clean answer. Its history belongs to a chain of human decisions. But the chain begins in North America. There is one final reversal. Modern breeding can make a crop extraordinarily productive, but selection always has a cost. When breeders repeatedly choose a narrow set of plants for traits such as yield, oil content, uniform maturity, and harvestability, Some genetic diversity disappears from the commercial crop. That does not mean breeding was a mistake. It means breeding solves one problem by narrowing choices. And the sunflower has an unusual advantage. Its wild relatives are still here. Across North America, wild Helianthus populations have survived in environments that commercial sunflower was never designed to handle. Those plants have faced diseases, drought, salt, insects, heat, and local conditions without a breeder deciding which individual would survive. For plant breeders, that wild diversity is a library. USDA maintains one of the world's most extensive collections of wild sunflower germplasm. Researchers have used wild relatives as sources of resistance to diseases, including rust and downy mildew, as well as traits connected with salt tolerance and the hybrid seed system. One USDA example is especially telling. A wild sunflower relative, Helianthus argophilus, provided resistance used to develop cultivated sunflower germplasm, capable of resisting known races of downy mildew at the time of its release. Another wild relative, Helianthus praecox, has supplied resistance against Sclerotinia basal stalk rot. So after all the movement, from North America to Europe, into Russia, back to Canada and the United States, the crop's future still reaches backward into the wild American gene pool. That is the payoff hidden inside the journey. Russia showed how far selection could push sunflower toward oil. Modern hybrid breeding pushed it further. But the next useful trait may be sitting in a scruffy wild sunflower beside a road or prairie fence. Not because wild is automatically better, because wild is different. And difference is insurance. A modern field can be beautifully uniform. Every plant reaches a similar height. Every head matures on schedule. Every combine pass becomes more efficient. But uniformity means many plants can share the same weakness. A wild population looks messy because it contains possibilities agriculture may not need yet, until suddenly it does. That gives the phrase native crop a second meaning. North America was not only the sunflower's starting point, it remains part of the crop's genetic reserve. So look again at a sunflower field on the northern plains. It is not simply an American field crop. Inside those seeds are layers of human history. Indigenous farmers in North America first transformed a wild plant into a crop. European movement carried it across the Atlantic. Russian farmers and breeders transformed its commercial oil potential. Mennonite migrants carried improved seed back toward North America. Canadian and American agriculture turned those materials into a modern industry. And breeders still reach into wild North American sunflower populations when the cultivated crop needs traits it no longer has. So did America really give away the sunflower and buy it back? Not in the literal sense. Something more interesting happened. America gave the world a crop. The world changed it. Then America brought those changes home. And now, when the world needs new sunflower genes, it still comes back to the landscape where the story began. The sunflower did not make one round trip. It is still traveling. So who deserves the most credit for the sunflower we know today? The people who first domesticated it, or the breeders who transformed it into a global oil crop? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe to Forgotten Crop for more food history buried beneath our feet.